All right, let's jump right in today. We're looking at benchmarking, but specifically in those virtualized environments.
Yeah, that's where everyone's moving, right?
Exactly. It's becoming so crucial. But getting those databases to perform well in that virtual world, well, that's the challenge.
It really is. You can't just treat it like a physical server. There are nuances, gotchas.
Absolutely. But that's why we're doing this deep dive. We're going to break it all down.
I like to think of benchmarking as like a health checkup for your database.
Okay, I see where you're going with that.
You're putting it through its paces, seeing how it handles stress so you can make sure it's in tip-top shape.
And just like a health checkup, you got to start with the basics, right?
Exactly. And in this case, that's your VM configuration. Your CPU, memory, and disk allocation. That's where it all begins.
So let's start with CPU. What's the first thing people mess up?
Oh, over-allocating processors. Every single time.
Really? Why is that such a problem? You'd think more power is always better, right?
It is tempting to think that, but you got to remember, in a virtual environment, you're sharing resources.
Right, they're all managed by that hypervisor.
Exactly. So when you give a VM too many processors, it can actually backfire.
Wait, so you're saying giving it more processing power makes it slower?
It can, yeah. It's like a highway. If you cram too many cars on.
Gridlock.
Exactly. You get resource contention, the hypervisor's working overtime, and boom, performance tanks.
And I'm betting it hits the wallet too, especially for our listeners in India.
Absolutely. Overallocation means you're paying for power you don't need, and it's actually making things worse. Not a good combo.
So lesson 1, right-size those processors, don't go overboard.
Exactly. Now let's talk disk setup. This is where it gets interesting with thin provisioning versus thick provisioning.
Okay, so thin provisioning. That's like promising more than you can deliver.
Kind of, yeah. It's like reserving space, but not actually allocating it until it's needed. Save space up front, but
Can cause problems down the road.
You got it. If your database suddenly needs more space than it's been promised, things grind to a halt.
Gotcha. So for benchmarking, you're saying thick provisioning is the way to go.
Absolutely. It's all about consistent performance during testing. No surprises.
Right. Allocate all the space up front and you're good to go.
Exactly. And it's especially important with SSDs. They're fast, but they need that space ready to go.
Okay, so CPU, disk. What about memory?
Memory's a tricky one. It's easy to over-provision there, too.
So same principle.
Mhm.
Too much of a good thing.
Can be a bad thing. The hypervisor handles memory management, and if you give it too much to juggle, well, things get messy. You start swapping memory, and performance takes a nosedive.
Sounds like finding the right balance is key. Not too much, not too little.
Yeah.
Goldilocks zone, right?
Exactly. And how do you find that sweet spot? That's where monitoring comes in.
Okay, let's talk about that because monitoring in these virtual environments, that feels like a whole other beast.
It is. Your regular system monitors aren't going to cut it. They only show you the host level, not what's happening inside each VM.
Right, like trying to diagnose a patient without looking under the hood.
Exactly. You need tools that can see inside those VMs, see how each one is using those shared resources. That's where you catch those subtle issues that can really mess things up.
Give me an example of a subtle issue that could slip through the cracks.
Double paging. You get both the host OS and the guest OS trying to swap the same memory page at the same time. It's a recipe for disaster.
Oh, wow. So without proper monitoring, we might not even know it's happening, and our benchmarks would be way off.
Absolutely. You're flying blind without the right monitoring tools. You need that granular insight to really know what's going on.
Okay, so far we've learned about right-sizing resources, thick provisioning for those disks, and the importance of monitoring. What else is crucial for benchmarking in a virtual world?
Well, we've talked a lot about the tech side, but there's something else. The human element.
Oh, this should be good. Tell me more.
See, data is one thing, but decisions are made by people, right? And you got to make sure everyone's on the same page.
So you're talking about clear communication, making sure management, the team, everyone understands what these benchmarks really mean.
Exactly. Because if someone misinterprets those results, all that hard work goes down the drain.
It's like speaking different languages. The data might be screaming one thing, but if no one understands it...
They are not making good decisions, and that defeats the whole purpose of benchmarking in the first place, right?
Totally. So it's not just about the numbers, it's about the people behind them.
100%. And speaking of getting things right, there's one more big piece of the puzzle, choosing the right benchmark for the job.
Ah, yes. Not all benchmarks are created equal. We'll dive into that in part 2 of our deep dives. Don't go anywhere.
So yeah, picking the right benchmark, it's like picking the right tool from your toolbox.
Yeah, you wouldn't use a hammer to tighten a screw, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Each benchmark has its own strengths, its own weaknesses, its own use cases. You got to know what you're trying to achieve.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the common benchmarks out there. What's the first one that comes to mind?
Well, TPCC, that's a big one. It's been the industry standard for OLTP systems for years.
OLTP, just to remind everyone.
Online transaction processing, things like processing orders, managing inventory, booking flights, all those kinds of things.
High volume, fast-paced stuff.
Yeah.
So TPCC tests how well a database can handle all that.
Exactly. But it's getting a bit old, to be honest.
So technology's moved on, but the benchmark hasn't quite caught up.
Kind of, yeah. TPCC doesn't always reflect the complexity of modern applications.
So what's the alternative? What do you use when TPCC isn't cutting it?
Well, there's TPCE. It's like TPCC, but on steroids, designed to be more realistic, more demanding.
Okay, so if TPCC is like a regular workout, TPCE is CrossFit.
Exactly. Now, what if we're talking data warehousing? Big data, analytics, that kind of thing.
Different beast altogether. What benchmarks do we use there?
Two main ones, TPCH and TPCDS.
Okay, two options. Break them down for me.
So TPCH has been around for a while. It tests the database's ability to handle those complex analytical queries, sifting through massive amounts of data.
Sounds intense.
It is. But again, there's a but. TPCH isn't perfect. Like TPCC, it doesn't always capture the full picture of modern data warehousing.
And that's where TPCDS comes in.
Yep. TPCDS, it's the new kid on the block, more complex, more demanding, really pushes those data warehouses to their limits.
So if TPCH is running a marathon, PPCDS is like an Ironman triathlon.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. But remember, picking the right benchmark is only half the battle. You need the right tools to actually run those benchmarks.
Okay, let's talk tools. What are we working with here? Open source? Commercial?
Well, for open source, HammerDB is a popular choice. Very versatile, supports a lot of different database platforms.
And it's free, right?
Free and powerful. Don't let the price tag fool you. HammerDB's been used in some serious benchmarking projects.
Impressive. Now, what about on the commercial side?
Benchmark Factory is one of the big players. It's known for its comprehensive feature set, really user-friendly, and it can handle a wider range of workloads compared to some of the free tools.
So if HammerDB is like a multi-tool, Benchmark Factory is a whole workshop.
Exactly. You get more bells and whistles, deeper insights.
Makes sense. Now, what if we want to test storage performance specifically? Before we even bring the database into the picture.
You're talking about simulating database workloads at the storage level. That's a smart move.
So what are some of the tools we can use for that?
Orion, that's a good one, especially for Oracle environments. It was actually developed by Oracle, so it really knows how to simulate those I/O patterns.
Okay, so we can stress test our storage, see how it holds up under pressure before we even install the database.
Exactly. It's all about making sure your foundation is solid.
Love it. Any other tools like Orion out there?
Oh, yeah, there's SLO.
SLB.
Yeah, stands for Silly Little Oracle Benchmark.
Well, that's a memorable name.
It is, isn't it? But don't let the name fool ya. SLOB is a powerful tool, very popular among DBAs for really pushing that storage and seeing what it can do.
So, not so silly after all, huh? Okay, we've talked about benchmarks, we've talked about tools, but at the end of the day, it's all about the results, right?
Absolutely. Data is meaningless if you don't know what to do with it.
So how do we make sense of all these numbers? How do we actually interpret those benchmark results?
That is the million-dollar question, and that's exactly what we're going to cover in part 3 of our deep dive. You definitely don't want to miss this.
All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive. We've talked about setting up those VMs, getting those disks right, and picking the perfect benchmark. Now it's time to talk about the results themselves.
Right, because at the end of the day, it's not about the numbers, it's about what those numbers tell us.
Exactly. So how do we make sense of all that data? How do we actually interpret these benchmark results?
Well, first things first, you got to understand the context. What were we trying to measure in the first place?
Right. What was the goal?
Exactly. And what specific metrics were we tracking? Were there any external factors that might have skewed the results?
So it's about looking at the bigger picture, not just obsessing over individual numbers.
Exactly. Like say you see high CPU utilization.
Red flag.
Not necessarily. It could just mean your database is handling a lot of requests, which is a good thing.
Makes sense. It's about understanding the why behind the numbers.
Yeah.
What else should we be thinking about?
Trends. Looking for patterns over time. Are things getting better, worse? Are there any weird spikes or dips when we compare different benchmarks or configurations?
So we're looking for those red flags, but also those positive signals, right? Things that tell us we're on the right track.
Exactly. And especially for our listeners in India.
Yeah, cost optimization is always a big concern.
Absolutely. And benchmarking can really help there. If the numbers show you're way over-provisioned on resources, well, you can dial things back, save some money without sacrificing performance.
Love that. Efficiency is key. Get the most bang for your buck.
Right. And the key takeaway here is benchmarking shouldn't be a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process.
So we should be doing this regularly.
Absolutely.
Right.
Track those trends, identify potential issues before they blow up, and make those smart decisions about how we're using our precious resources.
All right, so there you have it, folks. That's benchmarking in a nutshell.
Or at least a virtualized nutshell, right?
Exactly. But in all seriousness, this has been a great deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, but hopefully you've walked away with some actionable insights.
Absolutely. And remember, the learning never stops. There are always new technologies, new challenges.
So stay curious, keep experimenting, and keep pushing those databases to their limits. And if you found this deep dive helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the deep dive for more insights into the amazing world of databases. We're always here to help you navigate those complex waters and unlock the full potential of your data. Thanks for tuning in.